Oh, guys, here about the box office, and yep, we have another fail for, of course, Disney. Disney continues to have flop after flop after flop. Okay, things might have started again looking better for Disney in August, and September, and Saint Seed did really well, and Free Guy did really well, but it seems that Disney continues to do horribly at the box office. Because even with the name recognition of Spielberg attached to West Side Story, it seems that no one is really interested in watching it. Because number one, they did release it during a slow week. Again, I think they're hoping that despite its poor opening, it can perform like The Greatest Showman. Because again, Christmas weekend is coming up pretty soon. But I don't think West Side Story will be really fortunate. Because Spider-Man No Way Home's coming out, a franchise film. Sing 2, a franchise film. And I know West Side Story is like a remake of a 1962 movie. But again, it's a remake of a 1962 movie in a play. Okay? That very people have really heard of. I never even really heard of West Side Story until they made this movie. But yep, West Side Story isn't really doing too well at the box office at all. The budget is $100 million, so Disney is gonna probably lose money on West Side Story. So it's gonna be another one of Disney's failures at the box office. Which is very hilarious. It is still doing better than the last movie they released under the Fox brand, which is The Last Duel. Which I think the reason why that movie flopped would be because it was overshadowed by, of course, Halloween, No Time to Die, Doom, Venom, all franchise films, and did not flop because of woke this. It did not flop because of millennials, because it actually did flop because of millennials. Because again, millennials are going to gravitate towards franchise movies because they can trust knowing that they'll like a movie if it's a James Bond or Venom or a Halloween movie, if it was just a new movie with nothing relating to anything. West Side Story seems to be another one of those things because millennials probably don't even know what West Side Story is. I haven't even heard of it before. I'm younger than millennials, so yeah, it's pretty hilarious to see right there. Okay, okay, not Ghostbusters Afterlife. Next is Enchanto, which again this movie is doing abysmally at the box office. This movie has like $140 million budget, so it still isn't read by -90 million. And I don't really think it's gonna make back its money at the end because internationally no one cares about this movie. And yes, it's having better legs now, but it's doing abysmally for its type for a movie that's sort of been doing really well at the box office, considering it had the Disney name, Disney brand, and the Disney logo behind it. And considering how horribly it did on the second weekend, I don't think its Santo would recover from its abysmal first weekend. So I think its Santos just could be another forgotten Disney film. Okay, I think people are starting to wake up. Even Disney, the unstoppable Disney, is being affected by the animation curse. That's gonna show you something about the downfall of animated movies. Next is Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is at 164 million worldwide. This movie is gonna buy. This movie actually already passed 140 million. 35 plus 75 is 140 million. So it has already made back its money. Unlike Ghostbusters 2016, which is the most hilarious thing here. This movie is gonna make money, unlike Ghostbusters 2016. Yeah, it might not beat it worldwide and domestically, but it is gonna beat it in terms of being a financial success. And its movies are still 4 million apart. And Ghostbusters 20 Afterlife is having far better legs than 2016 did. And we also have the holidays coming up, which will probably push this movie over the edge of around 130 million domestically, 142 million domestically, because of the Christmas break weekend. I know people could be well, Spider-Man's gonna destroy this movie's chances, but this movie is gonna probably still keep doing it. How Taguchi, which if it didn't have such a high massive budget, this movie would have been a success already. This movie still it needs to make around 130 to 150 million dollars to break even. I think it has a decent chance considering it's having extremely good legs domestically and internationally. That it's performing really well internationally. So if it has another good week next week, even despite Spider-Man No Way Home opening, it ends up like 110 to 120 million. Then I think throughout the because of the holidays, it might break 180 to 190 million worldwide, which means How Taguchi will be a successful film. It won't be a major flop for United Artists release. Next is The Eternals, which is gonna probably pass. It's gonna pass $400 million, which isn't surprising, but The Eternals is still should be a wake up call for Walt Disney. Even then, you know, $200 million budget and needs to make around $400 million to not be in the red and not be a massive box office bomb. And there was no Disney Plus to really back up The Eternals. I bet if it released also on Disney Plus, it probably did far worse to the box office and had far worse wigs like Black Widow did. But even then, it still did a pretty not too well at the box office. And it might get a boost. It's going to probably get the Spider-Man No Way Home boost. And it's going to probably end up around 410 to 415 million worldwide, which is still pretty bad for Marvel. It's still pretty bad. We'll really see how Marvel's next year movies do. And yeah, next is Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which this movie has a $25 million budget, so it needs $20 million more to break even. Unless it releases in China or something, I don't think it will. It's having better ratings than Santos, which is the most hilarious thing in the world. That a movie that is criticized by a lot of people is doing far better than Disney's masterpieces, according to the critics. Then it's just so hilarious that this movie is having far better legs than that Santo is having at the box office. So, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, it is doing not too great. Again, I'm not too surprised because it's another movie that no one asked for. So, next is Clifford the Big Red Dog. It finally has international numbers. It's not really doing too well internationally, but this movie is still doing okay domestically, but internationally it needs to pick up steam considering its $60 million budget. If it does do well, it does okay to international, like 60 or 70 million. We can call it not a flop because they said Paramount said it did really well on Paramount Plus. So, well, I don't really think that's streaming numbers, but yeah, the Christmas movie, this movie's a flop. You know, it's actually having decent wigs, but it had over $4 million opening, and it's a Christmas movie. And it's doing okay at the box office. It's a Christmas movie, so. And yeah, we can talk about Dune and Venom too. Dune's it's probably not gonna pass Alita, which is weird, but that's how the world works. It did pass it domestically, but internationally, Dune didn't get the massive boost from China that Alita did. So, yeah, Venom will probably pass $500 million worldwide. Yep. That's very likely. And No Time to Die as well, passing $777 million at the box office. Which this movie did pretty well as well. But the tables have turned for Disney. Now everyone else is doing well but Disney. That's the hilarious thing. It's back to this again. The fact that Resident Evil is having better legs than the Eternals is just so hilarious as well. Santo is doing abysmally. You know, we compare it to other movies that have come out this year. If we compare it to other Disney movies like Moana, this is Moana versus Encanto, The Good Dinosaur. It's been doing worse than The Good Dinosaur released on the same weekend. So the fact that it's doing worse than The Good Dinosaur is just hilarious as well. Encanto, I think, has a $130 to $150 million budget. Yeah, they don't list it here, but Moana's at $150 million budget. $634 million. Coco, again. Yeah, Coco is far higher than Encanto is. And considering this, it will probably perform worse than The Good Dinosaur. It'll probably barely pass $100 million at the most. Because if you look at the releases coming out the next couple of weeks, okay, Spider-Man coming out next week, okay, which is going to definitely have a massive drop-off for every movie, probably besides the Eternals, and for whatever money they can get out of saying C, and of course Venom Let There Be Carnage. And then the next week, we have, of course, Sing 2, Matrix, and Kingsman. Okay? And Sing 2 is going to be the competition that Nintendo doesn't want to deal with. Okay? If Sing 2 like does like $40 million domestically on its like first weekend, well of course it does. It basically performs like the first movie. It will basically defeat Nintendo at the box office, which will be the most storyest thing ever. Illumination beating Disney, even though according to everybody, Disney's the greatest company of all time. But it seems that audiences, like I've said, have lost interest in Disney. People are mad at Disney for buying Fox is probably one of the main reasons why. People think that Disney's a monopoly. And most Disney movies are basically the same. Okay? Disney uses a formulaic structure they have been using since Frozen came out. Even earlier we can say as well. Say for Marvel, okay? Marvel movies to me are just getting tiring. I'm not acting like those fandom ass people who are like, oh, Marvel movies are too woke, blah blah blah. No, Marvel movies are just all the same now. That's basically how it is. It's not really exciting anymore once the other guys are gone. Star Wars has become formulaic as well. If we're talking about formulas, but yeah, Disney hasn't really done too well at the box office, and the two most anticipated movies of the year have not come out. So that's basically about this video. Goodbye.